Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. Backed by popular demand, I think this might be her fourth appearance, is our resident plant-based dermatologist all the way from Manhattan, Dr. Jessica Krant. And so many of you have already sent in your questions, which we really appreciate, and we always do give those priorities. So please consider being on my mailing list, because we do tell you every few days who the guests are, and then you can just hit reply and tell us what your questions is. We always do try to answer your question live as well, but the chat goes so fast sometimes we miss them. That's why we do appreciate when you send them in. So welcome, Dr. Krant. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me back again. You know, this is just one of my favorite things to do. So I feel so lucky that I was able to get a slot. You're very popular.
Well, I know. And I appreciate all your recommendations. Believe it or not, I hate to, it's going to be daunting because then people are thinking I can't get on, but you know, people do cancel sometime. And this is your cancellation slot. This happens because my next regular opening is like end of February now. Oh, and that's because I really prefer to do just one show a day when I can, because I actually have a real job. So, but don't let that stop you guys if you know somebody or want to be on the show, because you know, we do get cancellations and then we take wonderful people that have been on the show. So thank you so much. So the first question is from Rayanne, and she wanted to know about tretinoin, something, did I pronounce it right?
Tretinoin,
0.01%. She said, is this something I can be on the rest of my life? If so, what are the risks and what are the benefits?
Okay, so I just like to repeat, as I always say, that when I'm on the show with you, Chef AJ, I'm not giving anybody personalized medical advice. So I will give some general knowledge that I may know about some of the questions, but I really would like everybody to please ask their own dermatologist, because everybody is unique and everyone's skin and health issues are different. So it's important. I just want to say that again, because I love to answer these questions, but I don't want anybody to overinterpret or misinterpret anything I'm saying for their own personal situation.
Right. And also we learned from you that preferably they want to see a board certified dermatologist.
Oh, yes. I always prefer, if possible, for people to see a board certified dermatologist physician, which is somebody who went to medical school, got an MD or a DO degree, and then did a internship and residency training in the field of dermatology and passed the board exam in dermatology. So that's a normally would be described as a board certified dermatologist. So the answer to the question about tretinoin is, first I want to explain to everybody that tretinoin is the generic name for what a lot of us used to once know as Retin-A. Retin-A was the original and still is the only FDA approved prescription anti-wrinkle cream on the market. It is the only one. There are a lot of other now in this family of retinoids, which are vitamin A derivatives. And there are many different creams and gels and different brand names for them. But tretinoin is the only one that actually went through the FDA approval process as a medication for wrinkles. Retinol is the over-the-counter retinoid. It's the over-the-counter cousin of tretinoin, but it did not go through the FDA approval process. So technically it's not controlled or, protected by the FDA. It is, however, considered to be safe, and it's monitored by the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, which monitors the sale and claims for cosmetics. That said, tretinoin is pretty strong, and it does have very beneficial effects for the skin. It can help to smooth and prevent very fine lines and wrinkles. It can help to reverse some mild sun damage. It can help to keep cells turning over a little bit faster. Keratinocytes that are the main cells in our epidermis. It sheds the looser, older keratinocytes a little bit faster, and it brings up the juicy young keratinocytes faster. In this way, it can help get rid of damaged cells that are lingering. But some people do feel that over decades of use, that's decades, it may actually do such a good job at this that the skin sort of becomes thin and almost translucent. So you can see some older people who have been using it for 30 or 40 years, and they may have this almost glossy, glowy appearance to the skin. Some people feel that that is caused by decades of tretinoin or retin-A. I don't know if that's proven. In terms of danger, you would really have to speak to your own dermatologist about whether there are any serious health risks to you. I do know that it is not considered safe in pregnancy or breastfeeding. It's not considered proven safe in pregnancy or breastfeeding. But other than that, I don't know of any specific general health risks that it could cause for anybody. Long answer.
No, but that's great. I like that you answer these things so thoroughly. So that's good. So is it vegan friendly? Is it something that?
It's not, I don't know. The real answer is I don't know. With the history of it, it's been around a long time, and it's a derivative of vitamin A that's created in a lab. So I don't know if it's has a history of having ever been tested on animals, and I don't know the exact source of it, but that is something I can look into.
That would be interesting, and I'm guessing it probably isn't made with animal products, but then again, I don't know.
That's right, and also we have to always remember that tretinoin is just a molecule, and that might be made a certain way in a lab, but the creams that they get put into can always have ingredients that come from other sources and, have been tested in other ways. So it's very hard to answer whether something is vegan and cruelty-free just about a single molecule. It's not that meaningful unless we're looking at a whole product.
Great. Thank you. You are a wealth of information. So here are some of the other questions. This one is from Anne. I am a low SOS 66-year-old no med vegan who began swimming an hour a day in a pool. My hair has become thin, knots, breaks off so much, is getting shorter, lost curl, and totally changed consistency. I have seen 3 dermatologists who say the problem is old age. Does Dr. Krant have any recommendations for food, supplements, or healthy hair products to recommend?
It's hard for me to answer this for sure because I don't know if the problem is metabolic, nutritional, or if it's from chronic damage from the chlorine in the pool. Most likely, it sounds to me like if you've been eating this way and living this way for a long time, and this is a new hair problem, it may be the chlorine in the pool. So in that case, it's pretty tough. I almost would say you have to put conditioner in your hair and put your hair under a bathing cap and not let the chlorine get on your hair. Rinse out with fresh water immediately as soon as you get out of the pool. But I do know that excess water and chlorine exposure is really damaging to hair. There are shampoos that help to balance the damage from chlorine. And I don't know if your I was going to say listener, but really viewer has tried that. Hair is so complicated. I don't know for sure off the top of my head of whether any of the hair vitamin supplements are necessarily vegan and cruelty-free. I have to look into it. That's another one I can come back on.
Maybe we could do a whole show about products one day after you've done this research, both the prescription ones and the non-prescription ones.
Right. I can try to do something more, specific about which ones. Maybe people can submit products I can try to investigate, although I don't want to promise too much. That would be a big project.
Right. Well, if this was me, I would do what Dr. Lyle, who's a guest next week, would do and run an experiment and maybe stop swimming for a month, do some other exercise and see if her hair gets better. Because then maybe she'll have an answer if it is the pool or not.
It's possible, but hair grows so slowly that I would say you'd almost have to do an experiment like that for 6 months minimum to be able to tell. And even then that older hair would still be there breaking. So hair only grows about half an inch a month. So after 6 months, you only have 3 inches of new hair, and you might be able to tell, but you wouldn't be able to immediately figure it out. But you're right. We have to do controlled experiments sometimes to figure these things out and leave everything the same and only change one variable at a time.
I would love to swim, but I've never liked what it does to the feeling of it, in your skin, the chlorine. I wish there was another chemical no chemical they could use,
Oh, they do have ionically clean pools that do not have chlorine. You might have to get yourself one of those, Chef AJ.
Oh, that sounds great. Terrific. Thank you. Roberta says, my godfather suffers from Grover's disease, intense, unceasing itching, which lasts for several weeks to several years. Grover's disease often occurs as elderly as they become less active and bedridden. It is treated with topical and oral prescriptions and then steroids. Is Grover's disease not some kind of side effect of meds which older people commonly take? It is blamed on sun-damaged skin. What dietary or other action can we take to minimize, eliminate this terribly challenging affliction? The people write such good, thorough questions.
I know. I mean, I see that the more I'm on here, the more complex these questions are going to get. Grover's disease is a stubborn, frustrating, and, sometimes intractable condition that is extremely itchy. It feels much itchier than it looks like it should. And it's really common in older people, men and women. And there are some more, I would say, traditional dermatology treatments that are more effective than others. Topical steroids do not always cut it. But as far as what dietary intervention would definitely work, I really can't be sure. I would be saying my normal, let's try to have an anti-inflammatory, very high nutrient plant-based diet, low in oils and low in other inflammatory factors, to see if that makes a difference. But I haven't ever had a Grover's patient that I've tried that on, so I couldn't be sure.
Great, thank you. I never heard of Grover's disease. I wonder who it was named after. Grover Cleveland, maybe, or Grover.
I'm sure a Dr. Grover.
Yeah, or maybe Grover, one of the Muppets. Must be nice to have a disease named after you, huh?
I mean, I don't know if maybe you never really want one named after you.
That's true. Unless you discovered it, maybe. That's true. Levon asks, I am 58 years old and have started applying sunscreen regularly. My skin isn't too bad. However, I'm wondering if applying sunscreen this late in my age will now really make a difference in my 70s and 80s.
Sun damage is cumulative. So every time we sit by a window, go outside, we do get extra UV radiation on our skin. So it depends what the goal is. We can always reduce extra DNA damage and extra aging damage by starting sunscreen at any age. How old did she say she was?
58.
58? There's at least 40 more years ahead. That's like still half your life. So absolutely, it's worth it. Starting now, believe me, if you start now, when you're 78, you're going to look just 5 years older instead of 30 years older. So I think it's worth it. And one more thing I want to just also add, we're actually learning right now, brand new sunscreen science is learning that even indoor light and visible light, not just ultraviolet radiation, but visible light rays also cause damage to our skin. So newer sunscreens contain an ingredient called iron oxide, which is actually basically almost like rust mixed into the sunscreens, and it blocks the visible light spectrum, which helps prevent aging damage and skin cancer risk even more than we ever had before. So it's worth it.
I think it's never too late because I never used it until, well, actually I don't use it. What I do is I think I showed you the hat that I wear, which literally there's only this much you can see. It covers the entire face, which is funny because before COVID, I mean, now people just think I'm wearing a mask, but before
no,
COVID,
they think you're super cool.
Right, because it's hot pink. But before COVID, people were kind of looking at me strangely, because you look like sort of like the invisible man because all you see is my sunglasses. But I was looking at some photos of me, and I'm 60 now from many years ago. And I do look, I'm not bragging, I look better and younger now because I'm not assaulting my skin anymore with the sun, because I do not allow my face to have any sun at all. So I think that it can make a difference regardless of your age.
Absolutely. like I've said before, and is going to be my theme, we build our skin from within. And our bodies are always trying to be healthy and take care of us and make us healthy. So if we feed them properly and take care of them properly in at least 7 different ways that I could list for you, we will allow our skin to help itself get better and better. And if we eat badly and we don't live a healthy lifestyle and we don't protect ourselves from additional daily damage, our skin will get worse. But otherwise, if we protect it and do protect it from the inside and the outside, it will improve. I absolutely believe that.
Sounds to me like you need to write a book called Beautiful Skin from Within.
I may have to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely a book coming out of me somewhere. I'm figuring that out right now.
So Monica says, are there vegan sunscreens? I'm sure there are, because I've seen them advertised as such.
Yes. And, sometimes we give me the questions to look over beforehand, and I would have been able to come on with a list. And unfortunately, I don't know that I can necessarily name 100% vegan, cruelty-free product right now. So I'm going to have to add that to my research list.
I think banana boat or something. There's something with the word banana that I saw at Costco that said vegan and cruelty free. That's what I bought. But then I got the hat instead, because it was just, I don't like the feel of anything. I mean, I barely wear makeup anymore. I never like the feeling of anything on me.
I know. And the sunscreens there's a wide range of how they feel. I feel bad. I don't know 3 necessarily 100% vegan, cruelty-free sunscreens off the top of my head right at this moment, but I'm sure Googling them would come up with a good list.
Yeah, or go to PETA. PETA.org has a whole list of cruelty-free and vegan products.
And so does the Environmental Working Group. Nice.
Great. It's so fun talking to you. It's like we're having a conversation, but a bunch of people are watching.
Well, I just, if I'll give myself a perfect score if I can answer every question off the bat without any research. So, I'll keep trying.
Great. Thank you. Susan says, are there any effective treatments my husband can use for toenail fungus? So far, he has had no luck, and he cannot tolerate ingested prescription medicine.
I do not have a guaranteed cure for toenail fungus, even though the more high-powered prescription oral medications for toenail fungus only have about an 85% cure rate. So anything topical is more like in the 10 to 15%, maybe 20% at best. And that's if you use them for a year, twice a day for a year. So toenail fungus it's a real infection that actually infects the root of the toenail in the matrix where the nail is formed underneath the cuticle where you can't see it. So it's an infection that's really deep under there. It's very hard to kill it for sure by just putting something on the outside part of the nail. That said, there are, some people use tea tree oil right onto the toenail and claim that they have found improvement with that. And there are also more gentle and much safer ways to do the oral medications now that some people are trying, like giving a few pills 1 day a week or 1 week per month instead of every single day for 3 to 6 months. And that may be lower risk. So that could be something to discuss with your husband's board certified dermatologist. Ask if there are any other patterns for giving the medication. And, they do monitor blood tests as you go along to make sure that nothing is happening internally to damage the liver or the blood cells.
When you're talking about you build your skin from within, I think about like Dr. Esselstyn in heart disease, where he talks about how heart disease is a foodborne illness. But there's so many things in dermatology. Are some of them more strongly connected to what we eat that actually, like if somebody were to go on a whole food plant-based diet, they would not have that skin condition?
Yes, that is absolutely true. And before I get really into that arena, I would like to say it's possible that even infections in our body if we tune up our immune systems and balance them well, it's possible that even infections might be fought off better by a body with lots of phytonutrients and antioxidants in it. And that would be interesting to see if eating a whole food plant-based diet, keeping our stress low, getting good sleep, and exercising regularly would help even, minor skin infections. But it is in healthy lifestyle, healthy living, healthy diet are definitely directly related via research findings to the inflammatory skin conditions, including acne, rosacea, even eczema, and even psoriasis, and other autoimmune skin conditions, things like hidradenitis suppurativa, which is just a terrible inflammatory condition of the sweat glands, and other skin related illnesses, immune system illnesses that also have components on the skin. These are all helped with a healthy gut lining, a healthy gut, and a whole food plant-based diet that helps to balance our body's inflammatory responses.
Yeah.
So
if she was watching live, I would ask her what her husband's eating, because that would be interesting to know. And let's see, Gina says there's lasers for toenail fungus.
There are lasers for toenail fungus, and in some cases they can work and be helpful, but it's not reliable. It's not a guarantee. There are very few guarantees in toenail fungus. So I'm not against anyone trying it. I believe that often insurance does not cover that treatment. So if you're willing to give it a try, go for it. But I wouldn't put it out as, the reliable treatment that's
Right.
A replacement for the prescription medications.
Right. Just so you know, Sarah, who's watching live, loves your lamp. And we have a doctor who's watching live who said that he found that urea cream softens the toenail and may make topical medications more effective.
Yes, that's a great classic treatment. It depends on what the source of the urea is, because urea is a component of urine. So if they're collecting it from animals, then it may not be considered cruelty-free.
I was going to just say, if you're in the shower, I'm not going to say what I was thinking.
Well,
okay.
That's an old classic treatment, supposedly for athlete's foot, for foot fungus. But I don't know if it's really reliable. I don't know if it's,
Right.
enough.
Great.
Thank you about the lamp. That's one of I have a collection of a few items that I bought used at flea markets and things over the years. And that's one of my prized 1960s lamps. So that's exciting for me that someone noticed it.
So Julie, who's watching live, asks if self-tanners are safe.
Self-tanning lotions are much safer than excessive sun exposure. The dihydroxyacetone that stains the skin, it's generally considered safe. We don't really have research proving that it's dangerous, but some people are concerned that it gets absorbed into the skin. We don't really know a lot about it, except that in moisturizers, it's generally considered safe, if not used in an excessive, crazy way. What's not considered safe are spray tanning. Spray tanning, we dermatologists worry about because we don't feel it's safe to have people risking breathing in the tanning sprays. So putting in a lotion, I'm not worried about. Can we prove that it's absolutely 100% safe? I can't say that we can. If they put that chemical on a bare cell in a lab, they will probably find that it damages a cell in some way. The truth is, about all of these skin creams and skin products, it's a huge difference between what goes on a bare cell in a petri dish in a lab and how our intact skin handles these chemicals. So my advice is always to learn to not want to look tan. I think pale is beautiful, and pale is a sign of healthy, fresh skin. But if you want to look tan, I'm okay with self-tanners.
Yeah. And what about those machines that people go to, those booths? Are those safe?
Those booths are spray tanning. So, they try to put a little mask on your face or something so you don't breathe it in, but I'm not in favor of those really, because cumulatively, the risk of breathing in that chemical, we don't really know if that's safe.
Mm. Right. So a live viewer whose name I can't pronounce, I also can't pronounce their question, I don't think correctly, but is follicular disquietosis treatable with whole food plant-based diet?
Is that follicular dyskeratosis?
Yeah, probably. It had a Q in it. I'm thinking they spelled it DISQ, and
I don't know if that's directly curable by a plant-based diet. I don't think that there's probably even been any research on that yet. But I would say for sure 100% give it a try, because we don't know how many body functions nutrition directly affects. We know that it affects directly inflammatory conditions that look inflammatory on the surface. But if the dyskeratosis means the cells they don't stick well together, it's possible that that's a genetically inherited condition. But it may be that your body doesn't have enough of a certain protein, building block to make healthy glue to stick the cells together. And if you change your diet and eat a whole food plant-based diet full of healthy plant protein with all of the micronutrients and all of the cofactors from all of the vitamins in fruits and vegetables, maybe it's enough to overcome the condition. But I don't think we have proof.
great, thanks. Mila says, what do you think about Neutrogena anti-wrinkle products?
Well, Neutrogena anti-wrinkle products, the general group of them are mostly retinol products, and Neutrogena is owned by Johnson & Johnson. That is, big pharma. It's big drugstore. It happens to be Neutrogena happens to be a company that I grew up with and I believe in, and I trust them to do research, but they are a real, serious drug company, and they do not try to advertise their products as vegan or cruelty free.
Right.
So they're reliable for what they are, but I don't know if everyone in this audience would want to use the products. I can't say.
Right. Thank you. Does biotin help with hair growth, or is it just a waste of time?
That's a good question. And the reason that you're asking that question is because really the jury is still out. Biotin is one building block of hair, but I don't think it's been proven alone to promote hair growth. It is included in a lot of hair vitamins, but I don't think that unless you're biotin deficient by blood test, I think it hasn't really been shown to make a big difference. Now, I do want to say about biotin something that everybody may not have yet heard, which is that people who take biotin supplements risk throwing off blood tests for their thyroid function when they go to the doctor, or if they were to have a health issue and they go to an emergency room. Thyroid testing, and I believe troponin testing. Don't necessarily quote me on this without us double checking our research, but troponin tests may be thrown off by biotin supplementation, and troponin tests are what they do when you go to the emergency room thinking you may have had a heart attack. So it's really an emergency situation, and we can't afford the troponin test to be thrown off by a supplement. So use caution with heavy biotin supplementation. Unless you really know that you need it, don't overdo it.
Mind blown. I say this every day. People are probably sick of it. I learn at least one amazing thing that's going to help somebody on this show, because I know so many people that experience sometimes hair loss, not because of the diet, but because of the speed of weight loss. And they go on biotin, and I'm going to tell them, just don't do that now that I mean, not don't do it, but I'm going to tell them what you said, because this is mind blowing. So thank you.
Yeah. Hair loss is so complicated tricky, hard to figure out. It can be, like you said, it can be from weight loss. It can be from chronic stress. It can be from chronic illness. It can be from acute shock, illness or injury. It happens after pregnancy, after the baby's born, from such a quick shift in body hormones. So it's just not a reliable fix to just go take biotin to fix the hair. There are some dermatologists. Dermatology is the study of skin, hair, and nails. But even within dermatology, there are some doctors that are nail specialists and some that are hair specialists, because those areas are so tricky that not all general dermatologists know all of the latest research and treatments in those areas.
Thank you. Jill says, what is the name of the topical cream for toenail fungus?
The name of the topical cream? Well, there are all of the over-the-counter athlete's foot creams at the drugstore are the topical creams.
Great,
Yeah.
Thank you. Kathy says, I have melasma. Is it necessary to reapply sunscreen throughout the day if I'm just staying at home?
Well, interesting you say that, because as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, we now have evidence that even indoor light, visible light, that is the white light from the sun or yellow light, even from light bulbs, very, very minimally does impact our skin. And it's just shocking because we've spent decades learning about ultraviolet radiation and UVB and UVA radiation. And now we know that the visible light spectrum affects melasma. And by the way, at the other end of this light spectrum, from ultraviolet light and ultraviolet radiation, we go through the visible rainbow, all the colors we know. And at the other end of the spectrum, the other light that we can't see the rays of is infrared radiation. And infrared radiation is heat. And heat, we have now recently learned, also triggers melasma. So it's important, if you really want to get serious about melasma, to absolutely block all of those rays, including watching out for heat sources. People who are cooks and chefs who are in a hot kitchen often can get more melasma because they're around heat sources all the time, even if they're indoors. So unfortunately, I have to say that if you're going to go after your melasma and you want to give it the best help possible, you do need to wear and reapply sunscreen or makeup, physically blocking makeup, BB cream or CC cream or foundation indoors too, if you can stand it.
Wow, great. Thank you. I just want to acknowledge Susan for her super chat donation. And yesterday someone made one right after we had said goodbye, and I'm sorry I couldn't thank you, but thank you so much. And so Susan's question gets bumped up to the top.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Susan. Now I hope I can answer it. Let's see.
Yeah, well, it's something that I've never heard of, and I actually just Googled it, pay to play right now, but we try to get all the questions. And her question is, what can we do for passive crosshatch wrinkling that occurs on the side of the cheeks? I never heard that expression before.
Okay. I don't know if you'll remember, Chef AJ, but I think a couple of visits ago with you, I talked about the different types of wrinkling. There are active and dynamic wrinkles that are the ones we create by making expressions, the crow's feet and these smile lines. And the other type of wrinkling is this crosshatch wrinkling that happens right here in the middle of the cheek. That's not from making expressions. It's not from the skin folding, from our muscles contracting. That is from chronic, lifelong loss of the quality of elastin and collagen and loss of the water, moisture, and juiciness of our skin layers. So it's very hard to completely undo that once it's already there just by using creams. The most valuable thing we can do for that is prevent it. And that, to be honest, even if you start in childhood with sunscreen on you as an infant and wear it through your whole childhood, into your adulthood and on, that's probably the only way that would be the best way to minimize it. I forgot the rest of the question. Is there anything we can do now? All of the topical retinoids, these vitamin A derivatives we're talking about, the tretinoin, the retin-A, the retinol, they help. Some of the better quality anti-aging and antioxidant creams, but truly this is a great case for building our skin from within. Hydrating and giving ourselves the phytonutrients and all of the plant proteins and different vitamins to build healthy skin building blocks as much as possible would be, really vital for that battle.
Yeah, thank you. And we have another. We have a great guest. Yeah, Lightly Lume. And I don't see a question, but if you have one, we thank you for the super chat donation and we'd love to ask your question. So this is from Julie, and she says, Dr. Krant, I wonder if you could discuss the pros and cons of dry skin brushing.
Did we talk about this a couple of months
I've done 200 shows in the last 5 months, so I can't remember.
I'm thinking out loud, but I know that it may have come up. When I talk about this comes for me under the theme of exfoliating. And I am somebody who believes that our skin naturally, most of the time, naturally exfoliates itself at a rate that's, pretty basic, generally healthy. The dead cells will fall off when they're meant to. So I don't mind if we do a little bit of extra gentle mechanical exfoliating, by which I mean like a little loofah or a little dry brush, gently, a couple times a week or a few times a month. Dry brushing to me is a way of gently mechanically exfoliating, helping some of those little dead cells gently fall off. It supposedly stimulates circulation. And to me, the biggest value of dry brushing, honestly, is as a self-care, calming ritual that gives us a moment of mindfulness and of absolutely just focusing on ourselves. And, we're all missing that. None of us get enough of it. So if you gently dry brush and it's your ritual, I'm all for it. But trying to scrape all of our dead skin cells off so that we make new skin is a mistake. Because what happens is if we get too aggressive with it, we're actually creating microscopic injuries in our skin. And our skin reads that as danger. And it reads it as a threat. And what it does is it tries to replace those cells. And it just ends up creating a vicious cycle of excessive exfoliation, leading to excessive buildup of skin cells that then fall off and become dead and dry. And we feel like we have to exfoliate more. So it's not a healthy cycle. So I'm in favor of dry brushing as a self-care ritual that's gentle and calming, not painful. We don't want to hurt ourselves. Occasionally in this mindful way, as long as we're not being crazy about it and, being too rough.
Wow. Before I left LA, my friend treated me to a Korean spa and I hated it. First of all, I had to be naked, which I'm not a naked type person. And it wasn't negotiable. You couldn't even wear a bathing suit, but they did that. And I was like, I'll never want to do that again. But I guess some people like it. So
I just want everyone to know why they're doing it and do it in a valuable way that's good for us. Right. And not hurt ourselves by, scraping our skin off.
Yeah, sounds very painful. So the person that made the super chat donation, Lightly Lume, says, I can't get enough of Dr. Grant. I wish that I lived in New York City, but couldn't somebody have a consult with you even if they didn't live in New York City?
Well, I'm working on this, but legally right now, since I only have a license in New York, I'm not really allowed to do even a consultation as a physician with somebody who lives in another state, not a one-on-one consultation. Now, if that person were to fly to New York and be physically in New York, then I'm allowed. But I am working on some other options. Keep in touch.
Terrific. Thank you. Okay. So Michelle says, My 18-year-old son has warts all over the top part of his thumb, mostly where a thumbprint would be. He went to a dermatologist after trying the taping of his thumb. The dermatologist used the freezing method. We were told to use the over-the-counter wart freezing product after that, but so far nothing has worked and they seem to be getting worse. Do you have any suggestions? What is causing this? He's had them for a few treats now. I don't, maybe years. I don't, maybe that was a misspelling. So yeah, warts, those are interesting. What causes warts and how common are they? And will the vegan diet help us be wart free?
We don't really know why some people are susceptible to just having really stubborn warts that are hard to get rid of. And it's really common in kids that some kids can get many warts all over them. And then years later, their body's immune system decides to take care of them. But warts are tricky. I have to say that many years ago when I was in training, I was learning from one of the world's top pediatric dermatologists. And I'll never forget, she showed us this review paper, which was they call it a meta-analysis, an analysis of all of the wart treatment research basically ever done up to that point. And I will never forget that the result of that meta-analysis showed that all wart treatments work 40% of the time, which means we never know which treatment is going to work. And that's why it can seem like, there's a rotation of different treatments being tried. I honestly am not sure if it's that we finally figure out the correct treatment, or eventually the warts have been annoyed so much that our own immune systems finally recognize the virus as foreign and go to attack and melt it away. There are some treatments that involve revving the immune system up to recognize this skin infection, this virus, as foreign and help the body melt it away. So it might be worth seeing a different dermatologist for different ideas if this dermatologist, doesn't have any additional ideas. There are some other things to try, but warts are tough. And I know that it's, I couldn't even say for sure if a whole food plant-based diet would do the trick. I will say, speaking of whole food plant-based wart treatments, that one of the treatments in that meta-analysis research study was literally to take the inside of a banana peel and duct tape it to the wart. And then after several days, the wart just fell out. So if you want to look up banana peel wart treatment, that would be totally safe and might actually help.
Oh my God. A second thing I learned today. That's amazing. And most people have a banana in their house or can get one.
Yeah.
Low cost. Oh boy, the pharmaceutical industry is probably not happy about this treatment.
Right. I'm sure in my book, there might be a whole chapter on all the treatments that are just in your kitchen already.
And sometimes they really do work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fantastic. Jennifer says, I take lysine to counteract the arginine in some of the vegan foods like nuts and seeds that make my cold sores. Is it safe to take lysine supplements, or is there a food that you recommend? I just want to say that whether it's biotin or lysine, I don't think people should take supplements unless the doctor has told them to. So I take lysine. 6 years ago, I had 2 cold sores in the same month. And my dermatologist, who I'm still in touch with, told me to take lysine and how much. And I've never had another cold sore. But too many people medicate themselves with supplements because of what their trainer at the gym said. And I don't think, now that we learned that biotin can be, it's something that if you're having a heart attack, not so good. I don't think people should just take things because they read that they're good. They should get them from their doctor. That's my opinion.
Yes. Reiterating my earlier point that, I'm not giving medical advice to anybody, even if I'm answering your question. I'm just kind of giving general thoughts on the matter, of course, because I haven't met you guys yet. But I don't know of any specific risk with the L-lysine supplements. And I do know that they're considered a more natural and safe way to try to keep cold sores away. So I don't have a specific problem with lysine supplements. And off the top of my head, I don't really know a food that's particularly high just in lysine to recommend. So at this point, I would say we can do some research on that, but I'm comfortable with the L-lysine supplements.
Right. And I thought beans were high in lysine for some reason.
And I think corn maybe also, if I recall,
Or,
but I'm not 100% sure.
or maybe quinoa. Yeah, that's interesting. Sharon says, is there something I'm missing in my whole food plant-based diet that makes my nail have ridges and sometimes the skin next to my thumbnail peels back?
If is this Karen,
Mm-hmm.
you say? If the ridges, I'm going to show my little
Sharon, I think. I'm sorry.
Sharon. If the ridges, here's my splint, everybody. If the ridges are what we call longitudinal, they're going up the nail like this. And you said irritation on the sides of the nail. We call that longitudinal ridging. And the sides of the nail being sore and inflamed, we call paronychia, because nychia is the nail and para means to the side. So that longitudinal ridging and the paronychia are probably not caused by a dietary problem. They're most likely caused by excessive water and soap and chemical exposure. So if you're doing dishes without gloves, or you even do a couple of dishes, or you wash anything in the house, or you're a swimmer and you're in water a lot, you can get these kinds of damage just from chronic water and irritant and soap exposure. That's the paronychia, and the longitudinal ridging on the nail is a nail plate that is dried out. So partly that can be from chronic damage from water and soap exposure, but it also is actually just natural. It's natural aging of the nail. And as we get a little bit older, that starts to be more common. And at some point, it's just the way the nails grow, the matrix of the nail that's underneath the cuticle, it just isn't as robust and juicy as it used to be. So just like our skin, things just start to get a little more dried out.
Great. Thank you. Susan wants to know, do oils increase milia? Do oil serums increase milia?
I have talked about milia before, I know. And my theme about milia is that they really do seem more common these days than ever before, but the jury is still out on exactly what is causing them. Some people feel that it can be more common or particular ingredients in skin products. So I can't say for sure if one or more particular oils is causing them, but as you said earlier, Chef AJ, really the easiest way to find out is to stop using the oils for, and now I'm going to have to say, at least 2 or 3 months before you will be able to figure out if you're still getting new milia or not.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you, Carrie Beth, for the super. You're my good luck charm, Carrie Beth, for the super chat donation. Yes, we have great guests. Thank you. So Gina says, is there any new information for treating hyperpigmentation? It's very hard to treat, and I have tried the Fraxel laser already.
Well, hyperpigmentation means extra pigment, and it's a descriptive word that covers many different types of extra pigment. So as I have mentioned in previous episodes, which I hope you guys will go back and watch, lentigos, which are regular sunspots just from sun damage, and melasma, which is this hormonally based type of excess pigment. Those are 2 very stubborn types of hyperpigmentation. Both of them can be temporarily improved with laser. Neither one is probably permanently fixed with laser. So in addition to lasers, Fraxel laser and other lasers, maybe like the Ruby laser or Clear and Brilliant, depending on the situation, it's important to get the sun protection game on strong. There's really no way to remove this excess pigmentation and then hope that it will stay away without absolute game on, excellent sun protection on an every single day basis. I don't know if you guys have noticed, when you go outside and you haven't really been in the sun that much, 5 minutes in direct sunlight and you can see a tan line form. We call that immediate pigment darkening. It's like pre-tanning, but it's like those toys when you put them in the sun and they change color. our skin does that immediately. That's how quick we get sun damage that creates this hyperpigmentation. So if you want to invest money in very expensive skin creams, very expensive lasers, make a commitment to yourself that you're also going to become the person that does not seek being tan anymore, and that you always have sun protection. You can't really have it both ways.
Right. I get it. And the people that I have on the show that are like, for example, Victoria Moran in their 70s.
I was just thinking of her.
And we say, oh my God, your skin's so beautiful. What's your secret? She says, I don't get sun on my face. And the more that I do that, the better my skin is getting. So as much as I loved being a sun worshiper and I love the look of being tan, I'd rather not look old. So I'm done. My days in the sun are over. Yeah. So Carrie Beth says, the question is about pustular psoriasis. My dermatologist is not familiar with diet effect on it other than recommending seafood. God, why would you recommend fish?
I don't know about the link between seafood and psoriasis, other than I know that fish oils and the omega-3s in salmon, are anti-inflammatory. So there are some doctors now that are recommending fish oil for skin conditions. I, being plant-based, do not recommend that we get our omega-3 fatty acids this way. But I do know that psoriasis is an inflammatory systemic condition. And it is absolutely, research shows that for many people, that psoriasis is improved with strict adherence to a nutritional, high density nutrient plant-based diet based on whole foods, minimizing inflammatory components as much as possible. Psoriasis is also extremely linked with stress, and it's also linked with weight. So we have learned that some types of psoriasis actually improve with weight loss and definitely improve with stress management and better quality sleep. It's just such a rough and stubborn condition that, it may be worth pursuing all of these avenues together.
Great. Okay. I saw a question here now. Something about sauna. Hold on, let me find it. This thing, what I see moves so fast. Mila says, does infrared sauna damage the skin? It's claimed to have detoxifying effects and popular.
I would not have really believed it had I not read research this year of studies done in Finland with infrared saunas helping actually it was at the beginning of the pandemic, with all the research going on all over the world about immune systems. Research shows that infrared sauna and then cold showers, ice cold showers or ice baths, especially going back and forth from infrared sauna to extreme cold, like cold shower or going out in the snow, actually improves the immune system function. But yes, even the heat of an infrared sauna it does, that pinkness in our cheeks is inflammation. And for people who have a risk of melasma, it would bring out that pigment. But that's not to say that infrared sauna is bad for our skin in any way that would be a reason not to do it for our overall health. Everything in balance.
Terrific. I love this question from Lori. What is Dr. Krant's personal skincare regime? And did you like the products I had sent to you from the Body Deli? Because that's my favorite, at least the blueberry scrub.
I love the Body Deli. That was a lot of fun. It's fun I've always thought that we can just put the foods that we eat right on our skin. So it's nice to know that there's a company out there working to make that feasible and accessible for everybody. Now I forgot the question.
What is Dr. Krant's personal skincare routine?
I always try to avoid being asked this question because
you can take the fifth.
No, I will answer it. I hope that people aren't disappointed in my answer. The truth is I'm just really lazy. And I'm not a product maven. I don't have the energy to put on multiple products in 2 rounds every day. So the truth is that I use just a gentle cleanser on my face. I will say, please don't tell anybody, but I don't necessarily even wash my face every single day. And I have learned that when we excessively wash our face, we actually disrupt the pH balance of our skin. And washing off what we call the acid mantle, which is the naturally slightly acidic layer that forms on the top of our skin, washing that off with soaps, it actually disrupts the microbiome balance of our skin and can set off inflammation, transepidermal water loss, and allow some, risk of infections and even acne to creep in. So for me, it's very basic. I use like gentle cleansers, and that's just about it. I get a lot of products given to me as samples. So I will have the energy to use them for short periods of time. And there are so many that I really like, but I don't have one go-to that I'm using every single day right now.
Great.
Is that a very disappointing answer for everybody? I'm sorry.
No, I love it. Well, your skin looks great. So I think it's wonderful. So here is a question from Apu. How to treat chronic eczema acquired genetically after my 30 years fungal infection, xerosis, and chilblain. I'm an Indian. There's words here that I just don't know.
I absolutely cannot answer that in this forum. That sounds like a lifelong series of events and conditions that have, contributed and morphed into each other. True chilblains may be related to an autoimmune condition. Eczema and xerosis is dry skin. Eczema may be excessively dry skin that is extra irritated by ongoing treatments and processes, or it may be coming from a food allergy or internal allergy and be an immune condition. And the tinea that she says, or he says, came originally from at the start that's a fungal infection, ringworm of the skin. So that's an infection, which is a different situation than the other ones. They may all be immune related, and there may be something deeper going on that's hard to figure out without some more invasive tests or blood tests or skin testing. So I hope that your viewers able to find somebody to help, ideally a skin specialist.
It's board certified.
Well, if I don't know, is this listener in India or?
Well, he or she doesn't say, but they say that they're Indian. If you're still watching, please do a follow up. While I thank Issa for another super chat donation. You are my lucky charm. You're going to have to be a regular here, and you are already scheduled to come back. And I have you at the top of my cancellation list. It's just that I know that you work, so you can't just like be here all the time.
Well, anytime that I can, that you would like to have me, it's my honor.
Right. Well, we have time for one more question, and this is shaving your face a good idea for peach fuzz? I don't know. Wouldn't that be not great for a woman to shave her face? I don't know. It just sounds painful to me.
Peach fuzz can be natural, genetic, and absolutely normal. It also may increase after menopause because of hormonal shifts. And as I have said in the past, and I don't know who this viewer is, but if there's really excessive peach fuzz in somebody who's younger, in some cases, it can be a condition called lanugo hair that can be a sign of undernourishment. And that could actually be quite a sign of quite a dangerous undernourishment. So I want to make sure that whoever asked is really paying attention to her own health and, can tell whether this is natural genetic peach fuzz. And if unsure, please go to a doctor to ask about it. That said, dermaplaning, which is this new modern name for just gently kind of scraping off the fuzzy hairs. It's safe if done very carefully. It's a completely different situation from shaving with a razor blade for terminal hairs in the beard area. That would be a potential sign of hormonal imbalance, but can also be genetically normal. So the Peach Fuzz light shaving, and I think there are products now that don't have an exposed blade that do it also. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Well, Gina's wondering if it would make the hair more coarse like it does when you shave your legs.
From what I know scientifically speaking, from what actually happens biologically with hair growth, nothing is happening that's changing the follicle underneath the surface of the skin. So when we shave and we feel that hair is coarser, it's not because the shaving is creating a change in the hairs. What happens is if we wax or pluck a hair, a brand new baby hair has to form in that follicle to grow. And that will be a tiny little soft, thin hair with actually a microscopically pointy tip. So it just feels very soft to us. When we shave, we leave a full grown hair sitting in that hair follicle right beneath the surface. And that full grown, thicker hair, when it's shaved, it has a blunt, squared off tip that feels, because it's so thick, it feels stiffer to us. So it feels like when we shave, we're creating this thicker, darker, deeper hair, like stubble. But it's not actually happening. It's just the way we leave the hairs when we cut them.
Right. It was a dermatologist, thank goodness, that diagnosed me with hypothyroidism because my first symptom was lanugo and I wasn't undernourished, but I basically looked like a golden retriever. So I went to the dermatologist. The first thing she did was test my thyroid. And that's how I found out I had hypothyroidism.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up because I probably forgot that connection. So yeah, even more, valuable to know and probably more common because hypothyroidism is really running rampant in our society these days.
Yep.
So I'm so glad you said that. Thank you.
Right. Because it was vanity that got me to finally go on medication because I just didn't like having a blonde beard, fine for my Bailey dog, but didn't like it at all. So
sorry. I just wanted to say one of the reasons that it's such an honor to be a dermatologist is that sometimes it is vanity or social discomfort that brings people into the doctor after they never really went to the doctor before or hate doctors and want to avoid doctors. So they come in to me with something bothering them. And, it gives me an opportunity to actually help them figure out that there's something wrong inside. So dermatology is really an amazing field for that. Besides all of the anti-aging and cosmetic things that we do, the skin really is our window to our inner health. So that's why I'm such a huge fan of the whole food plant-based diet and healing our bodies from within. This is how we tell in the end what's going on.
Oh my God, you should have a show. You're like amazing. Remember that episode of Seinfeld where he dated the dermatologist? That was hilarious.
Yeah, we got called Dr. Pimple Popper or Pimple Popper MD for many years. Now a friend and colleague of mine is Dr. Pimple Popper. She's, killing it.
I saw like 5 minutes of that show and that was it. I could not tolerate it. I just too squeamish. So I did say last question, but I missed this one. And I think it's a really important one because people ask about it a lot from, it was from Dina. Here it is. Are there face exercises we can do to firm up and tone our face muscles that would help prevent sagging?
There is no proof about whether this works, but it is totally harmless. And if everybody wants to exercise these muscles by making faces and, strengthen our face muscles as much as possible, it's possible that it helps. I don't think we'll ever really be able to tell because we would have to exercise only one half of our own face for 30 years and then be able to compare the two sides. However, that said, one thing that does help to reduce skin sagging and skin aging is circulation, healthy circulation, and exercise. So for real, if we gently massage our skin and exercise our bodies and get healthy blood flow and have healthy nutrients coming to the surface of our skin with healthy building blocks, that definitely fights aging. And I am fine with people doing, those facial exercises have been around for decades. So maybe there's something to it, but there's no proof.
It's funny because you've been on the show 3 times, and when I went to bed last night, I'm like, what are we going to talk about? And then all these great questions came in, both live and from people that are on my mailing list, which I hope you guys will consider doing. And I'm going to post the link to that, because then you don't have to make a super chat donation to get your questions to the top of the list. Well, you are at the top of my list, and you already have a date, I know, again, on the schedule. But again, if your schedule allows, you're at the top of the cancellation list, right there with Dr. Doug Lyle and Robert Cheek.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huge honor. Thank you, Chef AJ.
Yeah, you are great. Thank you so much. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow if you like doctors, and who doesn't, because my guest is Dr. Evan Allen from Las Vegas. You might remember him from the movie Eating You Alive, and he is going to tell you the truth about saturated fat. Thanks again, Dr. Krant. It's always great talking to you.
Bye, everybody.